This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, along with Sean Anderson.
What's up, dummies?
And this is a big one for you. Not only is this your second week on the onside kick, which I got to thank you for filling in for me last week.
No problem.
VidCon. You were also, this is a double podcast week for you.
It's going to be triple.
Well, yeah, triple with the fast break, but you're going to be on your fast break, on the Primetime Podcast, and the onside kick. Sean pulling in the extra duty work this week.
I should
for
pull
MVP.
the Ricky Widmer and just do the Rick and Johnny, too.
Yeah, I know, right? You
should be the second person ever to do all four.
And then here's what we'll do. Since we pre-recorded a graphic conversation, we'll just re-record that, have you on that this Friday, and then it'll just be on everything. You can be on Too Old the Game as well.
I'm not going to do a graphic conversation because I'm not reading. Fuck that shit.
Well, this is the onside kick, everything for football, the NFL, and we are continuing our team previews. The East is done. We just got done with that last week. Moving on into the North. Before we start with the AFC North this week, let me tell you a little bit about the housekeeping that we have at the beginning of the podcast. Number one, if you want to help support us more so than you already do, make sure to check out patreon.com/MostValuablePodcast. You can also check our store link down below in the description. You can also get that at MVPMostValuablePodcast.com. MostValuablePodcast.com, not MVP.com, because I make that mistake all the time. MVP.com will bring it to CBS Sports Network, and you don't want to do that. You want to go to MostValuablePodcast.com. That's where you can also catch MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, please go on to iTunes, give the onside kick and all the MVP podcasts a 5-star rating, and then tell us why you love listening to the podcast each and every week. Sean, we're jumping into the AFC North, and how we do it, we start from the bottom, go all the way up to the top. And the first question I have with the Cleveland Browns is simple. Are they going to win more than one game or just win a game this year?
I think they will win a game this year. So Browns fans can at least, breathe a deep sigh here. You got the Jets week 3. That's a very winnable game. I think you can beat the Bengals at least once this year. I think you beat the Ravens once this year. You've been very close to beating the Steelers. I know they had Landry Jones starting in that game, but you could even beat a team, again, even the last game of the season. If the Ravens have a really good season, they end up benching their starters, you can win that game. There are winnable games here on the schedule for the Cleveland Browns. Now, is it going to be a successful year where you're 500? Probably not, but anything's better than 0-16 like you were last year.
Well, for me, right now, and I was telling you, I kind of went through some of the wins and losses very early. These are going to change. I saw 3 winnable games. The Jets could be winnable, or 4. The Jets could be winnable. You'll win one over the Bengals probably. And then also the Buccaneers as well. I'm trying to see what my 4th one was. Oh, the Ravens. So the thing with me with this team is the reason why I feel confident that you'll be like, not 0-16, but maybe like 3-4 wins at the best, is the quarterback position. And everyone wants to talk about Baker Mayfield. But for me, with this Browns team, the most important thing is not only have they brought in a numerous amount of good draft picks, they've brought in numerous veterans via trade. You bring in Demarius Randall, you bring in Jarvis Landry. Now you bring in 2 quarterbacks, one with the number 1 pick in Baker Mayfield, the other in Tyrod Taylor, who's a guy who has had not just playoff experience because he went to the playoffs last year, but he has experience bringing a underdog-like team, a team in the Bills who had not been to the playoffs in forever, bringing them to the playoffs and being successful as a starting quarterback.
Well, and he also has experience under Joe Flacco as well. So, I mean, he has experience under a true starter, and, a guy who's been starting since 2007. So, Tyrod Taylor is a very experienced quarterback, and I think that's what, Cleveland needs, because it's been a while since they've had a very experienced quarterback, a guy that has, the resume that Tyrod Taylor does. So, it's definitely going to be a boost. The one thing I am worried about, because I do love the additions that they made. I love Jarvis Landry. I think he's a great addition. Their draft was fantastic in my mind. Baker, Nick Chubb was great. 2 great additions. You love Antonio Callaway as well. I know he's got off the field issues, but he's a very talented player. So you look at the biggest loss for them obviously is going to be Joe Thomas, but outside of that, I do like the additions they made to this offense. But the one thing that I'm worried about is the offensive coordinator position in Todd Haley. I'm not a fan of Todd Haley. Never been. I think the guy's just an asshole, and I think he's a bad coach. And I understand that people will look at his success in Pittsburgh, but there's a reason he was fired. It's because the players didn't like him, and then also it's tough to mess up that offense when you have Ben Roethlisberger, a guy who's been in the league since 2004, when you have Antonio Brown, the best wide receiver in the NFL, and then Le'Veon Bell, who at points is the best running back in the NFL with a fairly decent offensive line. So I'm not massively high on the Todd Haley offensive coordinator hire. I know Hugh Jackson does a lot with that offense, but even then, Hugh Jackson probably shouldn't have a job right now. So,
well, I was going to ask, if it's another season where they don't win a game, they win 1-2 games. I know Mark would be mad if I didn't mention it. He's on the fire Hugh Jackson train every time we talk about the Browns.
I don't think anyone should be on a different train. I don't think, what has he done in his head coaching career that has been positive? In Oakland, he wasn't that great. And then coming into Cleveland, he's done nothing but lose. I mean, he's been an epic proportional loser. I mean, it's been absolutely pathetic what they've done. So I'm worried about, I love the additions that they made both on offense and defense, but I'm very worried about how the coaching staff will go in. Because even look at Greg Williams, he's had his own personal issues as well off the field and on the field related to Bountygate and everything. And I know that's well in the past as well, but I'm worried about how this coaching staff can really take this team from an 0-16 team and get them 5 or 6 wins. I think they have winnable games on their schedule. I think they're going to win more than one game this year. But it's really questioning, even though they have talent on this team, how many games can they win in actuality? Because you look last year, they were in a lot of close games. Even week 1, they were close against the Steelers. It's 21-18
yeah, it was
game.
One drop pass, and if that pass isn't dropped, they win that game.
Not the last game of the season.
No, I thought it was the first time they played the Steelers. They should have beaten them.
It was 21-18. So I don't remember the game play-by-play. I don't watch a lot of Browns games.
Yeah, I just remember Browns fans being mad that the one wide receiver, I can't remember his name, dropped. I think it was like Brian Quicker, maybe something like that. Someone dropped.
But then Coleman does the same thing in week 17 as well.
Yeah.
But they were close in that game as well. You look at the Jets-Browns game, that was 17-14. You look at the Titans game, that was a Ryan Suckup field goal that was, I think, was like a 55-yarder. They could have won that game. I mean, there was a lot of close games on their schedules. Jaguars was only a 19-7 win. You look at the Chargers-Browns, that's Josh Gordon's return. That was 19-10. The Packers one was clearly a winnable game, 27-21. I mean, they were in a lot of games last year. They just weren't able to get over that hump. I think now being a more talented team, they'll probably be able to get over some of those humps. But being a team that I don't think is going to be a very well-coached team, that's why I don't think they're going to be able to get to that 6 or 5 win mark. But again, we look at that offense, we've talked about it. Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, Jarvis Landry, and you even look at Ricardo Lewis, Rashad Higgins, Jeff Janis as well. I mean, they have a pretty deep amount of talent in that wide receiving core that this offense, with a guy either Tyrod Taylor or Baker Mayfield, should make some noise, at least in the passing game.
Well, and for me, the biggest question has to be the quarterback position. And the reason why is we talk about the coaching, we talk about Hugh Jackson, should he have been fired already? All he's done is lose in Cleveland. But this year is, to me, the most important with quarterbacks. Because my first worry, not even bringing up Hugh Jackson's name, just in general, is you bring in a guy like Baker Mayfield. And with the fans, I worry it's going to be a Tim Tebow type of atmosphere of Tyrod Taylor's your starter, he wins the job. That first mistake, week 1, we want Mayfield.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a given. That's going to happen with any single team.
But, like, if it was any other rookie this year, there is a polarizing popularity when it comes to Baker Mayfield, much like we saw with Tim Tebow. So can you ignore that pressure from your fans who probably want to see Baker out there? Then number 2, you showed me last year, you don't know how to work with your quarterbacks. Like DeShone Kizer, they're like early in the preseason. Yeah, we're gonna take it slow with DeShone Kizer. We're gonna work him into the offense. Not gonna rush anything. And then you rushed him right in, and he looked like he didn't even have a chance to be successful in Cleveland. So for me, because you have Tyrod Taylor, I would almost be on the bandwagon of let Tyrod. Well, if Baker wins it in the offseason, that's completely different. But if Tyrod wins this job in the offseason, I would almost be like he's got the job the entire year.
I don't disagree with that, and I think whoever wins this job should rightfully win this job, and you got to be sure that you're going to stick with this guy for as many games as you possibly can, unless injuries happen or they're just having an epically horrible season. And I think with the quarterback situation, I disagree with you that that's the biggest worry because you look at them and they're both talented players. Tyrod Taylor has a resume. He's a starter in this league for a reason. He got paid the money he did for a reason. He was able to help Buffalo win games. And Baker obviously is a talented player. My biggest worries with him in the NFL draft was his character. I was worried about what he would actually be able to do in the NFL.
I should say character then, not because of the players, because of how the Browns have treated the quarterback, plus just the history of Brown quarterbacks.
That's what it goes back to. Is I think this is the problem with the Cleveland Browns this year is going to be the coaching.
Yeah.
And both offense, defense, just in general, I think they're going to mishandle a lot of moves. And I think that's going to lead them from not being able to win as many games as they should because of the talent on this team. But it goes back to just having a leader on this team, because I don't think it's going to come from the coaching staff. I don't think Todd Haley can be a leader. I don't think Hugh Jackson can be a leader. I don't think Greg Williams can be a leader. And we look at that offense, their leader for the past 10 years has been Joe Thomas. He's now off this team. So is it going to be Josh Gordon? Well, we know his history and we know his past. Hopefully he's able to get over that, because we want players like that to succeed. He's obviously dealing with something that he's dealt with for a long time, but I don't think he can be seen as a leader because he really hasn't been trustworthy his NFL career. Hopefully at one point he'll be able to, but it's not that time. Corey Coleman isn't really a guy that is demanding of that presence because he hasn't done much in the NFL. Maybe it's Jarvis Landry, but he's a guy that is very outspoken and he's best friends with OBJ. And maybe, and I'm not trying to be rude here to Jarvis Landry, but he's kind of got a little bit of a diva in him. So,
he's a wide receiver.
T.O. isn't a guy that you want being a leader out there. You don't want
your
divas
leaders
running.
Are going to be Tyrod and Baker.
Well, what I want to get to is Tyrod isn't a guy that has really commanded a presence, because even in Buffalo, he was having a good season and they throw in Nathan Peterman. I know that was dealing with money as well, and they wanted to be able to see what they had if they were going to move on from Tyrod Taylor.
Well, the Bills also hated Tyrod Taylor for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is he's a guy that does not command presence.
Yeah.
You want your leader to be able to command that presence and can command a locker room. And then with Baker, he's a guy that has shown he's been able to take that chip on his shoulder and put it into a positive. But I worry about how much he will be able to keep the reins on it. And maybe with these divas on the outside and just this team getting a little bit too cocky and not having a leader on the team and having Baker run the shop, maybe that will be too wild of a team and they won't be able to rein it in, and they'll make mistakes and crucial mistakes that will lose them games. So I just look at it, and I don't know where the leader is coming from, because you even look at this line, there's a lot of, at least, guys that are coming into the Brown system. You look at Zietler from Cincinnati, you look at J.C. Treader from Green Bay, and then a lot of other guys are just recent draft picks, and even Chris Hubbard, the right tackle. A lot of these guys are either freshly drafted or free agents from different teams. They're not really a culture in Cleveland, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing, at least offensively, that's going to bite the Browns in the ass.
Well, and I agree with you in the sense of somebody needs to step up and be the leader of this team, because one position we haven't mentioned is the running back position, where they did a similar thing there that they did for the quarterback position, where, hey, we're going to go ahead and bring in a guy from free agency in Carlos Hyde, who's a established veteran, but we're also going to go and draft a Nick Chubb as well. And running back's kind of way different than quarterback. You can manage two running backs. Yeah. Quarterbacks, you can't have a two-quarterback system.
And they're going to probably be dealing with three running backs too, because Duke Johnson had a great year catching balls out of the backfield.
But I mean, with the defense, I look at them and I look at who could be a leader for this team, and I wonder, is it going to be Myles Garrett in his second year? Is it going to be a guy like Demarius Randall, who he's just coming into this team like Jarvis Landry, so he might not have a big presence right away. We'll see in the offseason what happens there. And then for the offense, I feel like it's got to be, when I look at the quarterback, it's got to be one of the quarterbacks, and how I see it is Tyrod Taylor will be named the starter. I'm not going to say wins the job. I'm just going to say he's named the starter at the end of the offseason. He plays out the year as the starter. Baker takes the job next year.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, Baker's the starting quarterback of this team next year, unless he gets injured. I mean, that's the only way Baker's not starting in the 2019 season for Cleveland. I don't think anyone's debating that, because Tyrod Taylor's contract's up after this year. So
the question with this team, another question with this team is, will it just be, because it seems like a lot of people are excited. You bring in names with the draft, you bring in names in free agency. Is this going to be the classic team of like, man, on paper, this team is good, but then when you look at the win-loss, it's like, man, they're not that good.
I don't know if they're a good team on paper. They're an improved team. And for Cleveland fans, I mean, you should have the expectations that you're going to win games this year. But I think the expectation for a Cleveland Browns fan isn't a certain win threshold. It is just the fact that you see an improvement out there, that you're competitive in every single game, and that you're not really disappointed in what you're seeing. That these players are giving it their all, they're close in games, and yeah, we win 3 or 4 games. If you're able to hit that threshold, I think you got to be able to take that as a victory for Cleveland fans, because you can be, overhyped. You can see the talent on this team, but we have to realize what the situation is in Cleveland, and you have been the worst team in the NFL since I was born. Like, there is no changing that. That list of quarterbacks just keeps getting longer and longer. The success just keeps getting more pathetic and pathetic as the years go on. You just need to be able to take that step forward and saying we're entering the next era, the new era of the Cleveland Browns. That's all you need to be able to say. It was kind of like with the Bears last year. The Bears, we just wanted to see a team that was competitive at times, and we saw flashes, and those flashes were enough, where now as Bears fans, we're excited that, hey, maybe we'll be able to hit that 8-win threshold. It should be a gradual build-up in Cleveland. It should not be a very, balls to the wall, let's win as many games as possible this year. I mean, that should be the goal, but I mean, let's not overhype what this team could actually do. Let's not think Cleveland's a 12-win team because they added Jarvis Landry, Demarius Randall, and Baker Mayfield. I mean, this team still going to have to go through a lot of growing pains, especially early on in the season, and that just might be at least costly for this team because we look at their schedule, and a lot of those games that are winnable are early on in the season. Week 3, the Jets. That is a very winnable game. You only lost that game last year by 3 points, and they won because of their veteran leadership at the quarterback position. You're going to need to be able to get over those growing pains against the Steelers and against the Saints early on to be able to win that game. You look at the Raiders the next week. That's going to be at Oakland, but Oakland last year was not a good team.
And
you're
I
still
don't
coming
know
off
what they're going
injuries
to be like with John Gruden.
And you're still coming off injuries with Derek Carr, so you don't know what that team's going to be like. Obviously, the game against the Ravens, both of them later on in the season, those should be winnable games, and at least competitive games, because that's what you expect from divisional opponents, no matter who they are, whether it's the Browns or not. You should be competitive in your division, at least be close in games. Chargers should be close. But then again, looking after the bye week, that is where the wins should most likely come, because you're going to be through those growing pains. You're going to be for sure set on your starters. You'll probably deal with a couple of injuries, but you'll probably have the guys that are going to be starting for you for the rest of the year. And then you start off at the Bengals, which is a winnable game. Texans is going to be a difficult one. We know how many injuries they deal with on a constant basis. And by then, Deshaun Watson will be back and healthy by that time. The Panthers, team that when Cam's hot, they're really good. But when Cam's off, you can win that game. The Broncos, we don't know what they will be like. Is Case Keenum going to have a great season again? Bengals, again, you should be able to win that one. Ravens. So that week 12 to 17 mark will really show you what the Cleveland Browns will be for the next couple of years. And if you go 2-4 in that stretch, then I think that's a positive for this team, because you're probably going to get one win as well from week 1 through week 10. So the Browns should be expecting 3-13, because, again, this team has talent. I just don't think they have that leadership. I still think this is a very young team where we can't overhype the Browns.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you say, 2-4 and then 1 win in the first 10, because that's exactly how I see it. I put 2 wins at the end of the year, second time you meet the Bengals and the Ravens, and then the Buccaneers. And that's what I think. It's 3, maybe 4, with that 4 being maybe the Jets. And if you go anything above 4, it's because you caught a team like the Chiefs sleeping, because they're a team that's going to be way different this year without Nagy and without Alex Smith.
And even then, too, I mean, we look at the Chargers. They're a very up and down team. I mean, when they're on, they're
I want them to be
very
good
good
this
team.
year.
That's the thing, is their defensive front is disgusting. Phillip Rivers is a very capable quarterback. It's just really that's a team that also deals with a lot of injuries on a consistent basis. So this Browns team, I just think it's kind of like when you're in a desert and you haven't had water in 20 years, and you finally see like a Coke machine like popped up there. You see the mirage, and then it comes out just being RC. Like
RC Cola's not bad, man.
It's horrible.
It's not terrible.
Compared to Coca-Cola, it's dog piss.
Compared to Coca-Cola, but RC Cola ain't that bad.
Can you just go with the fucking bit, man?
I'll go with it. It's
Thank
horrible.
you. So no, it's not. Well, it's just something where you expect something great. You expect 8 wins, and then you get a 4-win season. Well, just temper the expectations. It's not a Coke machine. It's
an RC Cola. I'll ask you this then to end this segment: is basically put the crystal ball in front of you. What's your percentage that Hugh Jackson gets fired at the end of this year?
I want to say 110, but it's not. I'll say 60% he gets fired. I mean, That's the thing is, if he wins 2 games, he's improved.
Better. Yep.
So, like, it's just, I don't know. I'll say 45%.
Okay.
Because that's the thing is, I think they're going to improve, so I think he keeps his job still. But he should be fired. And even though Todd Haley hasn't even played a snap or coached a snap yet this season, he should be fired as well. I hate Todd Haley. I hope he does not have a job in the NFL, at least as a major offensive coordinator, because I don't think he does a job well. But this is probably his last chance for the Browns, so hopefully for him, he keeps his job.
I'm going to go at 40-50, and the only reason why is I feel like even if they do get 2 wins, will they feel pressure at the end of the year just to say we can't do this? Or if they even get 1 win, it's like, do we feel pressure? I'm moving more on the side of he doesn't get fired.
The writing is on the wall that Hugh Jackson is not the coach of the future for the Browns.
He might not be the coach of the future. I agree with that. But the thing I'll relate this to is like what we talk about with college coaches, where it's the first 2 years you didn't have your guys with the cleansing that they did this offseason. You bring in your guys through the draft. You bring in guys that you wanted to trade for. This is like year 3, year 4 of a college coach of like, all right, you have your guys in front of you. What can you do with your guys?
Well, even then, I think it's tough to say that he has his guys still because they still had front office changes going through, and it's still building up because now this feels like a team that can win, and now it's in Hugh Jackson's 3rd season, and finally having John Dorsey at the helm of the general manager position, he's finally being able to bring in some talent onto this Cleveland Browns team. But I look at this. I don't think Hugh Jackson's ever going to bring Cleveland to a postseason. I don't think they're ever going to win a Super Bowl under Hugh Jackson. So what's the point of keeping him around? Get a guy that's going to work with Baker and make this offense explosive because you have talent on this offense.
Every team needs a Rick Renteria before they find their Joe Madden. Every team needs that, and Hugh Jackson might be the Rick Renteria for the Browns.
That's dissing Rick Renteria. He's a Dale Sveim.
Swayham,
he's a Dale Sveim.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Hugh Jackson gets 2 more years. They're not that good.
Yeah,
they fire
I wouldn't be
him,
shocked too.
New coach comes in, playoffs.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked either. I just think it would be a bad move to keep him that long because I think you could probably do playoffs in the next 2 years.
Yeah, possibly. You could probably do playoffs next year.
Yeah, because I mean, let's look at the AFC North right now. I mean, Big Ben, once he retires, it's going to be wide open. Because right now, Joe Flacco isn't special. I love Lamar Jackson. He couldn't be something special, but it's going to take him time to become into a dangerous starting quarterback.
Yeah, and he's got to deal with Joe Flacco being a little diva.
Yeah, and right now, I don't know about Joe Flacco. I don't think if a guy's coming in saying, "Hey, I'm taking your job," you're gonna be like, "I won a Super Bowl ring. Back off, buddy." Also, I'm getting paid more than you. Like, I don't think it's him being a diva. But and then even with the Bengals, they're still dealing with Marvin Lewis. So this is a very open division once Big Ben is gone. So I think you got to look at this with Cleveland. I don't think you should wait too long to get rid of Hugh Jackson. I think you should do it at the end of the season, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in the comment section about the Cleveland Browns. How many games will they win? Will they be a decent team this year?
And tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah, tell us why we're wrong and why the Browns are going to go to the playoffs this year. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.